one of your biggest enemies can be yourself. For many years, I was overcritical of myself and of my music and my abilities, and I felt like I just had imposter syndrome like for many years, and I just didn't fully believe in what I was capable of, and I kind of just thought like there was some big joke, like all these people saying that I'm talented was just like, no, they can't actually think that. But yeah, it really comes down to self-love and belief in yourself.
Hey guys, back here with Sidewalk Talk, and today we are with Cory Enemy.
Hello.
I heard you grew up in Ridgecrest. Tell us more about your childhood.
Oh man, okay. Yeah, I grew up in a small desert town it's like near Death Valley. It's in California. It's called Ridgecrest. It was an interesting place to grow up for sure. Very secluded place.
What was the population of the city, town?
Man, I don't remember. It was definitely a lot smaller when I was growing up there in the 90s. But it's like it's a military base out there, and it's basically just a bunch of meth heads and and then people that work on the military base.
Oh.
Yeah, I lived like on a dirt road in a mobile home. Like it was real.
Oh wow. Was your dad in the military?
No.
Oh.
No, there's a whole other story behind why my parents lived out there. They still live out there actually. But yeah, it's definitely, I wouldn't recommend moving there or even really going there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like kind of like Charles Manson was his ranch was discovered there. Like when he was in hiding, when they were looking for him after like the Sharon Tate murders, he was hiding out there for like 10 years or something because it's so in the buttfuck middle of nowhere.
And did you listen to EDM growing up, or?
Did I listen to EDM growing up? EDM was not a thing when I was growing up. I'm 36 years old. Like that wasn't even a term. But yeah, I listened to electronic music when I was growing up. I listened to like a lot of IDM, like Aphex Twin, Square Pusher kind of stuff, Warp Records stuff. I listened to a lot of like trip hop, and listened to like Bjork was a big influence. Yeah.
Okay, and when you moved out to Los Angeles, was it to pursue music?
Yeah, it was.
You started producing at the age of 15?
Yeah, like 15, yeah.
What made you get into that?
I've just been like playing in bands and stuff, learning like instruments, and then I discovered electronic music, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is like, the computer is going to be my next instrument, you know? And then I just, I forget, I think I started on like Acid Pro was the program I used back then. But yeah, it was just like electronic music spoke to me. But I've always, even back then, tried to make electronic music feel a little bit more organic, incorporating a lot of like organic sounds, so it's not like straight electronic.
Did you ever go to school for producing, or was this just all self-taught?
No, just all self-taught.
And then when you moved to Los Angeles, were you doing it full-time? Were you also...
Man, these questions are good. It's so long ago now. What happened? I moved.
What was my past?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can say this. Things worked out for me like very quickly when I moved to LA, and I was very blessed. I had a lot of kind of opportunities that came to me very quickly, and I just kind of met all the right people. I was introduced to a lot of like important people in the music industry at a really young age, which opened a lot of doors for me. And it just, I don't really know how it happened. I guess I was just kind of at the right place at the right time. LA was a very different thing back then, and the music scene was very different. Like there wasn't an EDM scene. Back when I first moved to LA, like a lot of like the clubs and stuff that we would go to, they were mostly playing like indie rock kind of stuff. And then there started to be this emergence around like 2006, 2007 of like electronic sounds coming in.
The underground warehouse.
Yeah.
Parties.
Yeah, and even in these smaller clubs, like I used to resident DJ at Steve Aoki's club night, which this was before EDM, mind you, because his record label Dim-Mak at that time had no electronic artists on it.
Oh,
it was all indie rock artists.
Huh.
And he had a night called Dim-Mak Tuesdays, and it was like a lot of indie rock bands would play, and I would DJ like indie rock music there, and then and then it's like slowly started to change. There was really like one like crucial moment in time that started changing the culture in LA, and that was when Daft Punk played at Coachella, their like surprise set. Things kind of like changed very quickly after that, and people like started getting more excited about dance music. And then it was shortly after that the Ed Banger thing happened with Justice and Busy P and Sebastian, and they started coming and playing shows in LA. And one of their first shows, actually, I think was at Dim-Mak, the Cinespace Dim-Mak Tuesday night thing, and there was like only a couple hundred people there, and then they blew up shortly after that.
And where were you throughout this time? Were you just?
I was there. I was around.
You were around.
Yeah. I played the very first Hard in 2007.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like Justice, A-Trak, Busy P, Steve Aoki, Peaches, and myself.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the very first one.
Where did it all start? How did you meet all these people?
I met a guy. His name is Chris Holmes, and he's like my brother now. And he kind of like took an interest in me and was kind of managing me. And he's still a very connected person. And he actually introduced me personally to to the Daft Punk guys, and became like friendly with them, and got to go to the Tron like private screening when they did the soundtrack to Tron, and it was literally just like Daft Punk and their friends and family.
That's awesome.
And I think Jeff Bridges was there with his family, and yeah, this guy Chris, he's a very connected guy. He introduced me to Tom York, to Bjork, like some of these people that were like legends to me growing up that I thought I'd never meet in a million years. And I was still really young and just kind of settling into LA and feeling overwhelmed and being like, oh crap, I'm like from a small town and like this is a big place. And then all of a sudden I just like started meeting like all these people.
Wow.
In the music industry, and it was only a few years after that I ended up meeting Dallas Austin,
you guys
who mentored me, and he signed me to my first deal. And I moved to Atlanta and lived with him, and he's like kind of like a legendary music producer guy he did a bunch of amazing music with like Michael Jackson, TLC, Boyz II Men, Janet Jackson, Madonna, like huge list of really amazing legacy, like, legendary acts. And being introduced to him and him having like taken me under his wing, I got introduced into the commercial music industry and got a lot of really big opportunities and met a bunch of other people and networked in that world.
Wow.
And so because of like my original foundation in the music scene in the early days of like the electronic music scene happening in Los Angeles, I was there at the beginning of that, and a lot of my friends all went on to become huge DJs. And then I went on to do this kind of pop thing. I maintained my connection to both the EDM world as that started exploding, and then the pop world. And then when those things started merging together and becoming like one and the same, I was kind of there in the forefront of that as well, and doing a lot of work.
Okay.
Helping bridging that over and bringing pop songs to a lot of EDM artists.
So you were really there at the right time.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I know you worked for like Carly Rae Jepsen, like you got into more pop, Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
Like how did that transition for you?
Yeah, that was mostly through Dallas, because I actually had no aspirations to do pop music at all. Even as I was getting into it initially, I was pretty apprehensive about it because I just didn't really like a lot of pop music that was happening at the time. And now I love pop music. It's really changed quite a bit, and it's become very diverse, and a lot of like indie sounds that I've loved over the years have started to actually become pop and influence the sounds of pop radio. But what was the question again?
I guess how did you transition over to pop? But you answered it.
I transitioned just kind of organically. The opportunity came, and I was like, okay, like I'll try doing this. And then after a decade of doing it, I just was like, oh, I guess I'm a pop music producer, songwriter now.
And then when did you start Spectrum? Was that during with Dallas, or was that after?
That was after Dallas.
Okay.
I started really young, and I came up under Dallas and a handful of other mentors. And then after years of doing that, I found myself in a position to be able to kind of start my own company and help guide young artists and do just publishing deals and artist development deals, and kind of just help people that I saw out in the world that were interesting to me, and give them a chance, in the same way that Dallas did for me.
A chance, yeah. Oh, so it's kind of like you're giving back.
Yeah, it's a pay it forward kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. How many artists do you currently have that's under Spectrum?
I've got 3 artists signed to me, and then I also do consultant work where it's a kind of, I help develop artists in partnership with other companies, and then I also have some songwriters that I've signed that I work with, and I do whatever I can,
What's the next steps for Spectrum? What do you see the company going next?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think COVID has really changed my perspective on a lot of things, but it's one of those things that I never really started the company or got into the business because it's some grand scheme of mine or master plan to grow it into some gigantic company. It's just I realize that I'm in a position to help people, and I have been pretty choosy about who I kind of work with. And I'm just happy to be working with people that I think are really talented and be making money and staying alive. And I've been blessed in my life. I think I'm sure things will progress and grow, but it'll all be organic. I don't know where it's going.
What are some of the challenges that you faced throughout your career?
Good questions. Quite a few. Mostly they were internal. A lot of self-sabotage. It's I think one of your biggest enemies can be yourself. For many years, I was overcritical of myself and of my music and my abilities, and I felt like I just had imposter syndrome like for many years, and I just didn't fully believe in what I was capable of, and I kind of just thought like there was some big joke, like all these people saying that I'm talented was just like, no, they can't actually think that. But yeah, it really comes down to self-love and belief in yourself, and I struggled with that for many years, which can hold you back creatively. And the other side of that is also just trying to avoid comparing yourself to other people, which I think is a huge problem today with people in general, especially with social media. People are like glued to their phones on social media, and they see other people's lives being lived on Instagram lives. And it's easy to think that a person's life is a certain way because it appears a certain way on Instagram, and they don't see the reality of what it is, and so you're comparing your life to that person's life, but you don't actually know what that person's life is really like. And it can be easy to become overwhelmed by that, and looking at everyone else's successes or what appears to be successes and feeling maybe like discouraged by it. But yeah, I when I was a lot younger, it was difficult for me to not compare myself to other people, and even just creating music, I would always compare every single song that I did to the greatest song that I know of, and if it wasn't up to that standard, then I would just trash it. And because of that, I just would never finish anything. And then the reality is it's all subjective, like just because I think that some song is the greatest song of all time doesn't mean that somebody can't think of a song that I did is a better song than that song. It's just personal opinion, so I learned to like kind of just throw that out the window, let it go, just make stuff, let it be what it is, not think too much about it, and kind of make peace with the fact that I'll probably always hate everything that I do, and it's okay, as other people might like it, that's cool.
Do you share these struggles publicly as well, or is this all just something you keep to yourself? Oh yeah,
all the time. I feel like I've learned quite a bit in my journey through working in the music industry and just in life in general, and as I like make friends with some of these younger artists that I'm also like helping, I feel obligated to share my experiences and hope that they can take something from it and maybe learn from it.
So you mentioned earlier that you were your own enemy sometimes. Yeah. Is that where your name came from? Or is that something different?
That's really funny.
I just had to ask.
Yeah. No, that isn't where the name comes from, but it is fitting.
So where did the name come from?
I don't really remember. I had a band like a long time ago called Pink Enemy, and I think we got the name because somebody probably jokingly said that we sounded like Pink Floyd and Public Enemy. I don't really remember, it was a long time ago, and we're like, okay, that sounds like a cool name, we're Pink Enemy now. It was like a full for the lulz kind of thing. And then I started doing remixes, and my band had some hype around it, so when I started doing remixes, the blogs would be like, oh, this is Cory from Pink Enemy doing this remix, because I wouldn't do it under the Pink Enemy name, and they just started kind of calling me Cory Enemy.
Got it.
And I was like, that's cool, I'll just use that name.
I had something so much deeper, and you're just like, yeah, it was just happened the fun.
It's all for the lulz, I don't know. It was then, for sure.
Did your parents support you on your musical journey?
Yeah, they definitely have supported me most of my life through music, I think. And my mom is a musician.
Oh,
she loves music.
It's genetic.
Yeah. So I think she was probably happy to see that I also took an interest in music.
What's upcoming projects for you?
So I kind of like had retired for a little bit, like indefinitely, I thought.
Oh.
From the artist thing.
For how long?
It just didn't really like resonate with me. I did a lot of touring when I was younger, and I just really hated touring. There was like to a point I loved it. I was like, oh, this is great, and then after a while it's like, I can't maintain relationships, and I can't work on music as often as I want to, and it just really was not like the lifestyle for me. And things with the pop thing, like the pop part of my life kind of started taking off more, and I just felt the universe telling me that that's where I should go, and I'm really happy that I did that. But more recently I've kind of, because I never stopped making music that's kind of for myself and not for other people, and I've like have a big collection of songs and stuff that I've done over the years, and I continue to make all the time. So last year I kind of had the idea with my mentor, who I mentioned earlier, Dallas Austin. We had like thrown around the idea of doing an artist project for many years, and I finally just said, like, let's just do it, because I got a bunch of these songs, and Dallas, he's like a legendary person, and so I thought it would be an amazing opportunity, and just I trust him like family, and the idea of doing it as a partnership with somebody kind of relieves the pressure from me, and not having to feel like I have to tour it all the time, and have a partner that can also tour, and we don't have to do it together always. So we started this project called DALiCO, which is a combination of our names, Dallas and Cory. DALiCO. It's DALiCO. The I is silent.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And when was this project started? We
started it just last year, and we have a bunch of music. We've released, kind of soft released a couple things, but we had like bigger plans for releasing, but we decided to kind of hold off until things get more normal in the world, so that we can back it up with like instant tour support, because we have like an agent standing by, and we have a great management team, and we've got like everything, the pieces all put together, but we feel a bit trapped, and he lives in Atlanta and I live in LA, so it makes it a little bit tricky for us to get together, But so that's like a new thing.
It's exciting.
Yeah, we've got like a bunch of cool collabs in the works. We've got some like working on some stuff with Snakehips and CeeLo Green, and did some remixes for some people, and so that's.
How many songs are you planning to release once everything dies down?
For this year, I think we're just gonna, because we're sitting on so much music, regardless of if touring becomes an option for us, we're just gonna start releasing it, and we've got like 3 EPs ready to go. We've got like a song with AlunaGeorge that I think's coming out in a couple months, and just a bunch of shit.
It's exciting. Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming up for you.
Yeah. And then I've been also kind of developing some other artists and helping them. There's an artist, her name is Elohim, that I've been working with for many years. She's a dear friend of mine, massively talented.
Yeah, she is.
We've, found a groove together, working and creating music together, and I help her out with a lot of her productions. And she actually lives like 9 minutes from here.
Oh, nice.
She's in the hood.
That's awesome.
But that's been like a real passion project for me, because I love her, and I'm a big fan of her music.
Yeah.
And it's been a great like creative outlet for me, because we get to make kind of weird stuff. And there's another artist I'm been developing, and I just signed. His name is Away. He does it's like industrial future bass. He's got a collab coming out with Rez soon, and also Crywolf, our roommate. He's featured on the song as well. So it's Away X Rez featuring Crywolf.
I also read in your bio that you also worked with K-pop and J-pop artists. Do you still work with?
I do, yeah. I do a lot of J-pop and K-pop. That sort of just happened. I'm half Japanese, and I.
Do you speak Japanese?
Not really.
Oh.
Like, I've dated a couple Japanese girls in Japan, and because of that, I started learning a little bit. Because it can be tricky dating somebody that doesn't speak English super well, and communication's so important. But yeah, I learned enough to be able to like tell taxis where to take me and order food at restaurants and like have very basic conversations. But I wouldn't say that I speak Japanese.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I went to Japan for the first time like 8 years ago, and I just like fell in love with the place. I'd been to a lot of different countries, and something about Japan like really resonated with me, and it just felt like maybe like a connection to my heritage. I don't know, it was a very spiritual experience for me. And I just instantly knew that on that first trip, I was like, I need to figure out a way to make Japan a place of like part of my life. And I kind of just like set this intention to make that happen somehow. I had no idea how, because the first time I went there, I just went there kind of as a tourist.
Yeah.
And the second time I went there a little bit work related, but it was for a smaller kind of J-pop thing.
Yeah.
And I had been learning a little bit about the Japanese music industry, but I just had no idea how to like really infiltrate. And then maybe like a year or two after that, I got connected with a company in Japan, which they're the largest music company in Japan. It's LDH and Avex, and I just got the opportunity to kind of do a partnership with them, and I took it, and I got a place out there, and I started living out there, and I kind of was traveling back and forth for many years, spending.
That's the dream.
Yeah, and I have like a family out there, friends and amazing people, and I've worked with this company out there, LDH and Avex, and I've produced and written quite a few J-pop songs in the last couple of years.
Wow.
And I'm still actively doing that.
So our battery died, and we are now sitting for the rest of the sidewalk talk with this beautiful background at the greenhouse.
Welcome to my pool.
So continuing on the whole J-pop, I know you're talking about your career with J-pop and Far East Movement.
Yeah, I did years ago. I did a lot of work with Far East Movement, producing records for them, and we just kind of became friends. And then those guys have been really crushing it in Korea and all throughout Asia, really. They kind of leveraged their success in the U.S. to build a really successful brand and relationships in Asia, and they kind of moved more into the business side of things as well, and they built a company called Transparency, and we decided to partner our companies together to work on kind of in Asian territories, and they helped introduce me to a lot of contacts in the music industry in Korea and Japan, which was kind of my entry point into getting into J-pop, and which then led to me living there. And so that's kind of how I got into doing that. And I think I never really had any like ambitions to work in J-pop or K-pop, but I knew that I wanted to live in Japan and spend a lot of time there, so that kind of just ended up becoming like my excuse to be able to live there.
Got it.
And then I ended up really getting into it, but yeah, I was like, I'm going to work in J-pop so that I can live here.
It worked out in the end.
Which I was saying, I love Japan. It's such an amazing place.
And recently you have been doing more K-pop.
Yep, been working on some K-pop stuff. Working on with this artist Atiz, which is on BTS's label, I believe.
Wow.
And we're doing like kind of working to develop some sounds for him to potentially break him in the US in partnership with Sony RCA. yeah, that's just one of the many things.
So how do you manage your time? Like, you have so many projects going on, and it seems like you have a lot of upcoming things. How do you do it?
It's tricky. I used to be really bad at it. I had no focus. I was really unorganized. And then I knew that I probably had ADD. When I was a kid, like, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and my parents would give me like Ritalin, and then I was like, I'm not taking this crap, and I would like sell it to my friends. But then as I got older, at a certain point, I was like, okay, I definitely have an issue with focusing and organizing myself and my life, and I decided to take Adderall. And I wasn't like taking like a lot of it, to like the way like some kids would do, to cram like a 24-hour study in or something. Like, I would just take, I guess, what would probably be like a medical dose of it. And I did it for 3 months. I think I did it for 3 months, and during that time it kind of rewired my brain, and I stopped taking it, and after that point I just learned how to really focus. And everything in my life became so much more streamlined, and it became a lot easier for me to manage multiple projects because I'm working on so many different things, and I got a lot better at delegating and managing, and bringing on people that I trust, and working with a team in an efficient way. And for a while I actually decided to manage myself, and then I stepped away from that, and I was like, all right, I've like learned how to be good at managing myself, and now I'm going to bring on some managers and build my team out, and now I kind of help manage other people.
Oversee everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's big changes going from.
I guess it's just growing up. I don't know, getting better at
everything.
adulting.
Yeah. Okay, and I know you've been talking about a lot of different projects, but do you have any more upcoming projects you want to talk about? I feel like.
Let's see, we talked about DALiCO, talked about Elohim, right?
Yeah.
And then Dan, Away, we talked about Away.
You're going through the whole list of it.
yeah. I've also been, I've kind of helped Destructo, Gary Richards. He's an old friend of mine. I mentioned I played the very first Hard in 2007. Like, we've been friends for a really long time, but as he kind of started his artist career, I've helped him out, like, with co-production work and helping him out with productions over the years. And him and I have been working on a couple EPs recently. I think he's one of the songs that we've done all during quarantine. Actually, we've got 7 songs, I think. Anyways, we got one. The first of that batch is coming out very soon. Ooh. And it's Destructo featuring Channel Trace and Thundercat, and there's another name that will be on that. That's a new artist. That's kind of a secret, but yeah. So yeah, that's another thing I've been working on.
Wow, I can't wait to hear the music when it comes out. My last question would be, what do you want to be remembered for?
Good question. When I was younger, especially when I was like in my teens, I had the idea in my mind that I wanted to be like a big famous musician, and I wanted my music to like be my legacy. And as I've gotten older, it's actually drastically shifted. And for me, my path, which I could talk for hours about, but through my experiences using psychedelic medicines like mushrooms and DMT, I've kind of realigned my relationship to the world and my life and the meaning of life and my purpose for being here. And what has ended up surfacing as I think the most important part of my existence as I see it now is the spread of empathy and love and helping people and connectivity and you know, it's a crazy world we live in now, and because of social media and a lot of different reasons, I think genuine connectivity amongst people and in society and communities it's changed, and I think we live in a lot of ways in a false reality, and people have become more focused on superficial connectivity, and that to me it feels like a plague on society, and it's a real problem. So for me, I put a lot of energy and focus in building community and in a meaningful way, finding people that are like-minded and interested in doing the same thing, and interested in spiritual growth and expanding your mind, and just the spread of compassion, love, understanding, empathy, facilitating those things and inspiring other people to do the same thing, and finding people that inspire me to do the same thing in this kind of feedback loop. That's become kind of my life mission now, and maybe I can achieve that through music, but whatever the means, I hope that is what I'm remembered for. I hope people remember me as Cory was a guy that inspired love. I don't really care if I'm remembered for my music, to be completely honest with you. Yeah.
Okay, so we got some fan questions for you.
Okay.
What is your advice for newbies on how to produce?
Well, it's pretty simple. The 10,000 hour rule is definitely real.
Oh wow.
And in order to actually get 10,000 hours in on anything, you kind of have to be obsessed. You have to really, when I was first getting into it, it was like an obsession. It has to not feel like work. It has to be something where you're sitting down at your computer and you're doing it, and 8 hours can go by and you don't even realize it, and you look at the clock, you're like, oh my god, how did 8 hours go by? And it's because you're just so consumed by it that everything else kind of just ceases to exist. And that's how you get through your 10,000 hours. It's literally just doing it. The other thing too, which is something that was not really available to me when I first started out, utilize online tutorials, YouTube tutorials. There is so much out there. I wish that those things were available to me when I was starting out, but I'm old, so they didn't have YouTube back then. But yeah, that's definitely a massive tool that people should be utilizing.
Okay.
What's next?
What are the sources you use to learn, and how?
Well, first thing that's important, I think, that to talk about is the concept of being a music producer. I think that this has kind of changed in people's mind, especially in like the younger generation of producers and music creators out there. Before like DAWs, before like Ableton and Logic and Fruity Loops, all that, like producers back in the day, they often were not engineers. So they would just kind of sit on a couch while they had engineers sitting there doing all the technical side of it. And the producer, it's their job. They're kind of like the director of a film, right? So the director is not editing. They're not mixing the sound. They're not designing the costumes. The director kind of oversees everything. They have the larger vision in their mind of what the movie should look like. So a producer has the vision in their mind of what it should sound like. And back in the day, they would work with engineers, people that would actually work the technical side of things, and make their sound engineers. And mix engineers and people that would kind of help bring the producer's vision to life. Now, because of technology, a lot of time, most producers, especially in the electronic world, they are both the producer and the engineer. They're wearing both hats, right? Yeah. And I think it's important to make that distinction between these two different roles, and that they are different. So when a person is becoming a producer in the electronic world, kind of the first thing they end up doing is actually learning the technical side. They're not learning as much about being a music producer as they are being a sound engineer.
The foundation.
Yeah, they're learning the technical side, how to design sounds, how to mix, and that's all important if you're going to be doing it on your own. And there's lots of tutorials that will teach you presets. I mean, they'll teach you sound design, and then there's a lot of presets out there that you can just like download the presets, and then have sounds you can start working with right away. And Splice is hugely popular now, and there's a lot of tools that make it very easy to get going on the sound side. But the producer side, there's like philosophy behind it, and it's a whole other thing. And I would recommend with learning. We got the guy.
Loud. I'm just like listening to this. I'm like, I hope this is not that loud.
Okay, guy.
Is that a leaf blower? What is it?
It's probably a leaf blower, yeah. No. I'll just get really close to the microphone.
Yeah.
Just to finish my thought. There's a lot of books out there that will dive into what it is to be a music producer, because it's a very different thing. And that is shaping a song and creating a final product and conceptualizing a song. And so read books and watch YouTube tutorials about the sound engineering side, and understand that there's a difference. Some of these great producers, like legendary producers like Quincy Jones, it's not really an engineer. He works with engineers, Anyway, now the leaf blower stopped.
I know.
Okay, next question.
Okay, we have a lot of questions.
Sorry.
How do you pay for your insane plant habit?
Plants are expensive. Man, I've spent a lot on plants. First of all, if you know where to buy plants, you can save money. I go to downtown to the flower district. In the flower district, flower market, there's like the LA flower market. In that whole area, there's like a 2-block area there. There's a ton of plant shops, and they are wholesaler, so you can get much cheaper prices than if you go to some of these like boutique nurseries. Yeah,
nice nurseries.
Especially since like plants have become kind of like a trendy thing, like. So now there's a lot of these like spots you go to like in Hollywood and Silver Lake, and they're selling you like a little succulent, and it's like in a cute little pot, and it's like, that's $25. Like, are you kidding me?
Like,
you
can get that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a good trick. That's a good tip.
So just finding the right place to buy it from.
Yeah.
Okay. And does your hair have a life of its own?
It really does. I don't do anything to it. I just wake up and it's like this, and it just kind of does whatever I want it to do. I don't know. It's an animal.
Like its own shape.
Yeah. It's different every day.
It's so funny.
Depending how I sleep on it, I guess.
Who's your favorite up-and-coming artist? I know you're talking about, I don't want to butcher her name. Elohim?
Elohim.
Elohim. Oh, I totally butchered it.
Elohim is definitely one of my favorite up-and-coming artists. I mentioned that I'm working with her and been working with her for several years now. Before I started working with her, I was a fan, actually. And so I'm not just hyping her because I'm working with her. I really think she's an incredible artist. She's doing something very unique, carving her own lane, and she's more importantly using her success and the fact that people are paying attention to her. She's using it to focus those people's attention onto social issues that are important to her, like mental health, which I don't think there is enough of that today. I don't think there's enough artists and celebrities out there, influencers, using their loud platform to direct people to things that matter. You know, there's things that matter in the world outside of gossip and self-promotion.
Any other up-and-coming artists?
There's a long list of new artists. I'm just trying to think who I would want to mention. There's an artist I just discovered recently that is incredible and not many people know about him. His name is Fote. It's PH. Fote. I think it's Fote. Oh God. What if it's not? People are like looking it up. I can't find Fote. Oh crap. If it's not Fote, she'll put the real name below us right now.
We're just gonna leave this part right here. List of artists.
Yeah, there'll be a list of right down here. There's gonna be a long list.
Is it.
Yeah, right here. Sorry,
it's okay.
I'm horrible.
Who is your favorite artist that you've worked with?
That's a really good question.
There's some hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, well, it's just I've worked with so many artists over the years. Working with Chris Brown was really interesting. He is incredible at what he does. Working with Sia, also mind-blowing. She's probably the best vocalist I've ever worked with. Her and songwriter as well. I mean, she's very down to business. When I've worked with her in the past, she will show up on the dot, exactly on time, not late, not early. She shows up and there's really no small chit chat. It's like
straight to it.
I mean, I've watched her write an entire top line start to finish in like 20 minutes.
Jeez.
And then she goes in the booth and she cuts the entire thing in one take.
Wow.
She'll do the whole lead, start to finish, one take. Very, very seldomly will do a second take. She'll be like, and it doesn't need to because it's perfect.
Wow.
It's absolutely perfect. I've never worked with another artist that's like that. Usually they do multiple takes and then you comp between the best parts of each take. And then she'll go and do her harmonies and her backgrounds, and then she'll be like, okay, I'm off, and then she'll go to her next session, and and it's perfect.
Just like that.
And it's done, and you're just like, Jesus, I am just witnessed like true greatness.
Prodigy.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Wow.
And a very sweet person.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, and how many plants do you own? Back to the plants.
Oh man. We should go count, but
should we? This is Richard. This is Bob.
It's, if I had to guess, I did used to keep track. It's over 100 plants now. Yeah.
Wow. And I remember you mentioned it took over an hour or 45 minutes to water?
I think it takes about 45 minutes a week to water, my watering schedule now. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite plant?
Probably my bonsai. Just because it's been alive for so long.
How many years has it been?
15, 16 years now. Yeah.
It's like half the age of me.
Yeah. You baby. Yeah. That's my favorite.
Thank you guys for tuning in for our interview with Cory Enemy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming to the treehouse.
I know,
the greenhouse.
Beautiful.
The
beautiful
treehouse was my
location.
old house.
The newly updated greenhouse.
The greenhouse.
Bye guys.
Bye guys.